History feels inevitable, like everything that happened was always meant to happen. The Allies win, the Axis fall, the world moves forward. But that's not the truth. Because during the darkest years of World War II, the outcome was never guaranteed. In fact, there were moments, quiet, fragile moments, where everything could have changed. A delayed order, a missed target, a single decision. And if just one of them had gone differently, the world you know today might not exist. A war balancing on a knife edge. By 1940, the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan, were unstoppable. Nazi Germany had crushed Poland in weeks. France, one of Europe's strongest nations, collapsed in just 6 weeks. The British Army barely escaped destruction. The Soviet Union stood uncertain. And the United States, still out of the war. This wasn't a balanced fight. This was a storm rolling across continents. And for a moment, it looked like nothing could stop it. The miracle of Dunkirk. May 1940. Over 300,000 British and Allied soldiers were trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. German forces had surrounded them. One final push, and Britain would lose its army. And if Britain lost its army, it might have surrendered. But then something strange happened. Adolf Hitler issued the halt order. German tanks stopped advancing for 3 critical days. No one fully agrees why. Some say terrain, some say overconfidence, some say miscommunication. But that pause changed everything. In that window, Britain launched a desperate evacuation, Operation Dynamo. Civilian boats crossed the English Channel, fishing vessels, ferries, anything that could float. And against all odds, the army escaped. If those troops had been captured or killed, Britain might have been forced to negotiate peace. And without Britain, there is no Western Front, no D-Day, no liberation of Europe. The Battle of Britain, a missed opportunity. After Dunkirk, Germany turned its focus to the skies. The goal, destroy Britain's Air Force. The Royal Air Force, RAF, was the only thing standing between Hitler and invasion. At first, German bombers targeted airfields, radar stations, military infrastructure. And it was working. Britain was close to breaking. But then, another shift. Germany began bombing cities instead. London, civilian targets. Why? Partly retaliation, partly a strategic mistake. This gave the RAF time to recover, rebuild, regroup, and ultimately, survive. Had Germany continued targeting airfields, Britain's defenses might have collapsed. And if Britain fell, Europe would have been sealed off. Every day that London burned, Britain's resolve hardened. Civilians became soldiers in spirit, standing firm under the bombs. The skies turned into a deadly chessboard of courage and calculation. Hitler had underestimated the power of determination over machinery. What seemed like a victory for Germany became a lifeline for Britain. And in that missed opportunity, the fate of Europe hung by a thread. Operation Barbarossa, the fatal delay. June 1941, Germany launches Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. It becomes the largest land invasion in history. Millions of soldiers, thousands of tanks. A lightning war meant to crush the Soviet Union before winter. At first, it works. German forces push deep into Soviet territory. Cities fall, armies collapse. But then, time runs out. The campaign started late, supplies stretched thin, and winter arrived. Temperatures dropped below -30 degrees Celsius. Engines froze, weapons jammed, soldiers froze to death. The advance stalled just outside Moscow. That delay changed everything, because it gave the Soviet Union time to regroup, to mobilize millions of troops, to prepare for a war of endurance. Had Germany taken Moscow before winter, the Soviet Union might have collapsed. And without the Eastern Front, the war in Europe would look very different. The Battle of Stalingrad, the point of no return. Then came the Battle of Stalingrad, a city reduced to rubble, a battlefield of fire, ash, and close-quarters combat. Over 1 million Soviet casualties. German forces pushed deep into the city. Victory seemed close, but they overextended, surrounded, cut off, trapped. Entire German armies were destroyed. It was more than a defeat. It was a collapse of momentum. From that moment on, Germany was no longer advancing, it was retreating. But imagine if Stalingrad had fallen. Germany would control vital oil routes. The Soviet Union would lose a symbolic and strategic stronghold. The war in the East could have shifted dramatically. Pearl Harbor, a strike that backfired. December 7th, 1941. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, a devastating surprise assault. Battleships destroyed, thousands killed. But something critical was missed. The U.S. aircraft carriers were not in port, and the oil storage facilities remained intact. Instead of crippling America's ability to fight, Japan awakened it. The United States entered the war with full industrial power. Factories shifted to war production. Within years, America outproduced its enemies on a massive scale. World War II became a war of industry, and the Allies had the advantage. If Japan had destroyed the carriers and infrastructure, the Pacific War might have unfolded very differently. The Battle of Midway, 4 ships, 1 decision. Just 6 months later came Battle of Midway, a naval battle that lasted only 4 days, but changed the entire Pacific War. The United States, using intercepted Japanese communications, launched a surprise counterattack. In a matter of hours, Japan lost 4 aircraft carriers, its most powerful naval assets. Pilots, planes, experience, gone. Japan never recovered its offensive strength, but the outcome hinged on timing. Minutes, moments. If Japanese planes had been armed differently, if American bombers had arrived later, if just one decision changed, the Pacific could have remained under Japanese control for years. D-Day, the gamble of invasion. June 6, 1944. The Allies launched D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in history. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, storming the beaches of Normandy. The odds were brutal. German defenses were strong. Weather conditions were terrible. If the invasion failed, the Allies might not have been able to try again for years, and every delay would strengthen Germany's defenses. But the gamble worked. A foothold was established, a second front opened, and Germany was now fighting on 2 sides. If D-Day had failed, the war in Europe could have dragged on indefinitely. The War of Production. World War II wasn't just fought with bullets, it was fought with factories. The United States produced over 300,000 aircraft, tens of thousands of tanks, massive naval fleets. Germany couldn't match it, Japan couldn't match it. This imbalance meant that even if battles were lost, the Allies could replace losses faster. War became math, and the Axis couldn't keep up. Some historians argue this made Allied victory inevitable, but that doesn't erase the fragile moments before it became clear how close it really was. Looking back, it feels obvious, but at the time, nothing was certain. Britain could have fallen. The Soviet Union could have collapsed. America could have stayed isolated longer. Each scenario leads to a different world. A Europe dominated by Nazi Germany, a Pacific controlled by Imperial Japan, a world without the United Nations, a completely different global balance of power. Because World War II killed between 40 to 50 million people, making it the deadliest conflict in history. And yet, it could have been even worse. The illusion of inevitability. We tell history like a straight line, beginning, middle, end. But real history isn't like that. It's fragile, unstable, built on decisions made in moments of uncertainty. World War II didn't end the way it did because it had to. It ended that way because of choices, mistakes, timing, luck, and the people who made impossible decisions under pressure. If you stayed until the end, you didn't just watch history. You saw how close the world came to becoming something completely different. Subscribe for more cinematic deep dives into history's greatest turning points. Like the video if this changed how you see World War II forever. And comment below. Which moment in history do you think came closest to changing everything? Because history isn't fixed, it's fragile. And sometimes, everything depends on a single moment.